Welcome to Talmudic Treasures. Today we're learning Gittin, page 17, which discusses that when one writes a divorce document, it's necessary that you need to write the time, preferably the actual date, namely the day and the month, which of course is the Hebrew date that should be written on the divorce document. And on this, the Talmud provides two reasons why one should do this. One has to do with fruit, namely the issue that when it comes to the actual divorce, from that point on, the husband no longer has rights in selling any of the fruits of the field in which the woman had brought into the marriage, because now they're divorced. Now the problem is that if there's no date, he could always claim that he sold those fruits before he actually divorced her, even though it was really done afterwards. A second explanation is you may show compassion for your wife or the woman you're about to divorce, especially if maybe somehow you're indirectly also related in some way, for example, a niece. So we know that when it comes to a person who commits adultery, let's say she committed adultery, that's a capital offense. That's actually one of the ways that a person will be sentenced to death is through chenek, through literally strangulation. That is a very severe, serious death penalty and punishment, a person who commits adultery and breaks their vows in that way. Now, what could potentially happen? She gets caught, and therefore the husband is going to end up divorcing her, but he doesn't want anything to happen to her because he still cares for her. So what he'll do is he'll write her this divorce document, and it will not have any date on it. And then finally, when she goes to court, let's say a month later for her trial, she'll produce this divorce document, and her ex-husband will say, oh yeah, I gave this divorce document to her a year ago. So therefore, she really is not, she was never married to me at the time that she, as you're saying, committed adultery, even though she really did. So if you have a date on the divorce document, then no one can end up doing this. So as we often find in the Talmud, if you have two reasons, one says one says the other, why don't they agree to each other? So on this, they said, why don't you agree to this situation? Why are you saying because of fruits, of he may sell the fruits? Why don't you tell me the reason is because you may have compassion on your wife who committed adultery, who committed znus. And this is an unbelievable answer that the Talmud says. 3 words, znus lo shchicha. This is not a common phenomena that could potentially happen in a marriage, in a relationship. And therefore, even though technically you're right, that could be a reason why we would have a date on a divorce document, but it's not logical that they would have instituted it for this reason, because it is not a common situation. How unfortunate the reality is of the world that we live in. Could you imagine that we live in a world in which a person could say those 3 Hebrew words, that znus lo shchicha, that engaged in inappropriate sexual behavior is not common? Unfortunately, we don't have to analyze this too much, but we certainly know how far down our generations have become, in which znus and all of its trappings are everywhere, in the media, on our phones, on the streets, everywhere you look, is something which is connected to znus. Unfortunately, we may not even think about it because we become so desensitized to the problem. But the reality is, it is an issue. And the fact that it's so common, we have to remind ourselves that this is not the norm. This is not the normal. Maybe the new normal, but there's nothing normal about it. The proper way of living is the way we used to live, where we could say the Hebrew words znus lo shchiach, that when it came to a relationship, a husband and wife, it was a healthy, physical, spiritual relationship in which one did not have to worry about this unusual circumstance of a person going astray. Again, how far we have come and how much we have to grow.